melodic heavy metal. Playing it heavier, louder, raunchier, faster. 99.1 CJAM. This is the Signals of Intuition. 99.1 CGM FM. There's Pamela Moore right there with Melt Into You from her brand new record, Resurrect Me. You're listening to the Signals of Intuition, 2 hours of melodic hard rock and heavy metal coming your way. Tonight on the show, we've got a very special guest. We've got the singer of that song, Miss Pamela Moore, who you might also know as Sister Mary from Queensryche's Operation Mindcrime album. She's going to be sticking around for most of the show, and let's try and get her on the line right now. Hey Pamela, it's Brandon from CGM FM. How are you?
Hey there, Brandon. Can you hear me?
Yep, loud and clear.
Good. I'm trying to see if you have an accent yet.
An accent?
A Canadian accent. Are you from Ontario?
Yes, Windsor. It's right next to Detroit. I guess you could call it the American part of Canada.
Oh, okay, I gotcha. So you're right close to the border then?
Yeah, from here you can see the lights of downtown Detroit. If you could drive straight across the river, downtown Detroit is about 5 minutes from my house.
Oh, but see, you said a boat. You said a boat. So you have a little bit of an accent.
No, I said about. I think the whole Canadians say a boot thing is just a stereotype created by Americans. I don't think I've ever met a Canadian who said a boot.
We're not that evil. It's okay.
Okay, so I guess let's dive right in here.
Sure, that'd be fine.
Would you mind if we start this interview by talking about your early influences and your time spent with Queensryche and some of the other projects you've done and lead up to Resurrect Me?
That'd be fine. Go ahead.
Okay, cool.
Go for it.
Okay, so what were some of your earliest musical influences growing up? Like, what influenced you to want to become a singer and get into music?
Well, actually, the music business wasn't really the influence. My mother introduced me to stage theater, and when I was really young, because she was in a little theater group close to the town where I lived, and she would have to bring us with her, obviously, for babysitting purposes, you know, and we would be a part of all the casting things that happened and their blocking and going through the dress rehearsals, and I was actually a part of some of the productions as well. And when you're young like that, you get pretty impressed by having, it's kind of playing dress up to the 100th%, you know?
Yeah.
And so I told my mom that I'd like to become an actress, and we weren't from a really wealthy family, and she said, well, honey, that's a good dream. She goes, you're going to have to probably learn how to sing and dance and do all this stuff. And so I was trying to figure out ways of being able to do all those things so I could become an actress. And long story short is that I got myself out of my babysitting money, I got myself a piano and let's see, what else was it? Probably a guitar with the action that was really bad. And I taught myself how to play guitar and do a bunch of other stuff. And I started getting into the music and finding out that I had a knack for it. And I loved writing. You know, I loved writing my own songs and coming up with different things, and that's kind of like what happened from there.
So did you have any musical training? Like, did you go for lessons?
No, I didn't ever, like I said, you know, it costs money to do that, and we didn't have money to do lessons, so I never really took lessons. Most of my knowledge has been, you know, on hand, you know, just going through everything and learning. I had, you know, a few years ago when I was living in New York, I did take a couple of lessons from a wonderful coach. Her name was Gwen Omeron, and she taught me a few wonderful techniques to be able to preserve my voice, get a lot more range happening. When I was in high school, I had some amazing music teachers that really mentored me and took me by the wing and recorded my, you know, originals, and they really kind of showed me different things that I could do. But as far as, you know, you had asked what my mentors were, I guess, you know, when I was in school, you know, I come from Seattle, Washington, and there's a lot of really amazing artists that come out of here. And one of those artists was Hart, Ann Wilson from Hart was one of my major mentors. I absolutely love her voice. She's still just as powerful, if not more so now than ever before, which is an awesome thing. And then, Paul Rogers is one of my favorite singers. When I was a kid, I used to listen to him sing, and I have a lot of different influences as far as different kinds of music, because I grew up in college doing jazz, and when I was a kid, I was doing folk music. So it kind of runs the whole gamut, so to speak.
And I also read that you're from a fairly musical family, obviously besides your own immediate family. It says one of your cousins is a Broadway star, and the other one is Terry Nunn from Berlin?
Yeah, Terry was just here. She's going to be here 1st of July. But yeah, Terry's my cousin. I also have a cousin that's an amazing actor, stage actor. His name is Greg Stone. And then my family, all of us either dabble in it or want to pursue it in some level. I have my brother Patrick and my sister Ari, who has her own solo album coming out this week, actually. They sang with me on this new record of mine as well, and I've had them do a couple of recordings, and there's nothing like having siblings sing together, because we have that natural DNA.
Yeah,
it's going to blend really well. I know, it's pretty fun.
Did Terry have an impact on the musical direction that you went on your first couple of records? Because obviously those were very sort of pop, very new wave at the time.
Yeah, they were, weren't they? And Terry actually sang on my last album, Stories from a Blue Room. She made a cameo guest appearance, and then an appearance on one of the other songs. I would say that she's such a powerful performer. And again, where she's at now in her musical career, she's even stronger, That's what we all as musicians want to be able to do as we get older, is become better at our craft. Obviously, we don't want to fall apart at the seams as we get older. And I think if you stay true to yourself, that's what happens,
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say, even to this day, she just had a performance here earlier this month, and she is so powerful in her genre and the stuff that she does. She's just an amazing person, and I do study her, and I do take direction from her when she's ready to freely give it to me. And I would with anyone else, pretty much. Because I've been around some very amazingly talented people, and you have to be grateful for that, and really see what they can bring to the table, and how it can make you as a better person. I think all of us as musicians kind of look at it that way too as well,
Yeah.
We kind of feed off of each other, so to speak.
And then now, how did you get started in the industry itself with your first two records? Like, tell me how those two records sort of came together and who played on them and that kind of thing, because it's really hard to kind of find even any information on them or even track them down as they are.
I know, that's true. Well, it was right out of high school, I think, or college, and I was working for a recording studio. I was their receptionist, and the owner of the studio was connected with a label at the time called First American Records. And he asked me if I'd be interested, and I was like, wow, yeah, that'd be great. And so we went ahead and did these two albums. I was never a writer on the album. We always farmed out the songs and picked different songs that would work for those particular albums. They're very pop-oriented. I think Billboard magazine called me a blue-eyed soul singer, album-oriented rock or something. And I was pretty proud of them, because that's the first album I've ever done, But the label, after the second album finally came out, the label had to close its doors due to financial situations. And so I was just kind of out there. I was just kind of out there going, okay, what do we do now? And I just pretty much just followed my passion. And I was doing a lot of top 40 type singing for a while when I was growing up, and doing a lot of TV and radio commercials. And that's kind of how, because of one of those commercials that I did, that's kind of how I got connected with got the Queensryche connection going on from then, and kind of blossomed into this. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, that's kind of a nice segue into sort of the next thing I want to talk to you about, and that's the whole Queensryche thing. But right now, we've got to go to a break.
Okay.
So I'll tell you what, I'm not actually able to track down any of your first 2 solo records just because they're so hard to find and they've been long out of print. So I'll tell you what though, there are samples available on iTunes, so what I'll do is I'll play samples from a couple of those songs, and then how about we do Sweet Sister Mary from Mindcrime?
Okay,
cool. Great, here we go. So from your first solo record called Take a Look, this is a sample of the opening track, I Lose My Mind.
You got me walking round singing the blues.
99.1 CGM FM, there's Queensryche right there with Sweet Sister Mary from their classic record, Operation Mindcrime. Before that, we had samples from a couple of Pamela Moore's first solo albums that have been long out of print. Because they're so difficult to find, I'm only able to play samples off some of those records. But the samples you heard were Won't Find Me There, I Can Still Remember, and from her first record, Take a Look, we had I Lose My Mind. And tonight, if you're just tuning in from that music selection right there, you might be able to guess that tonight we are interviewing Pamela Moore. She's talked about her early career so far and how she got into the music industry. And right now we're just leading up to how she met Queensryche. So Pam, you were just saying before we went to the break that you got started with Queensryche because of a TV commercial that you had been on?
Right. Yeah. The commercial was just one line, and it was constantly on the radio, on TV. So you always heard about it. You always knew this store. The music store was called Guitars Etc. And they heard, Chris DeGarmo actually heard it, I think, or maybe both of them did. I wasn't around then, but Chris would always come into the store, and I was working there part-time while I was singing at night in the clubs. And he goes, "Are you the person that..." So I go, "Yeah, that's me." And he's a really nice man, and we had some nice conversations when he came in. I think one day he had Jeff Tate walk in, and I got to meet Jeff. And I kind of had an idea of what was going on with them, but of course I wasn't, I was doing the top 40, so I wasn't really connected with any of the metal stuff or anything at the time.
Yeah. And
then I think I saw them come to the club one time that we were playing, and I thought that was funny. But anyway, I long story short, he finally gave me a call when they were in Montreal, and he asked me if I'd be interested in flying up and to see how I would do on this song of theirs that was written to sing with Jeff. It's a female part, and he told me a little bit about the song, not too much. He wasn't going to send me the CD, or back in that day it was a cassette. And I was really worried about it, thinking, well, are you sure I'm the right person for it? And he said, "I think we have a good idea that you are." And so they flew me up and met me at the airport, took me to dinner, started to tell me about this conceptual album that they had going on, gave me a cassette tape, took me to my room and said, "See you in the morning." And sure enough, I listened to the song and I thought, I could do this. I could do this. And so the rest is history.
And at the time you did this session, did you think you'd be touring with them and sort of become this unofficial sixth member of the band? Or did you just think it's, hey, I get to fly up, this will be fun, I'll do the session work, go home, and that'll be that, and I'll go back to my life?
That's what it actually felt like. I mean, I wasn't even sure. I was pretty sure they liked it. They had me doing some talking stuff that's on the song and everything. And I went home just like totally in awe of even having the opportunity to do that. But I had no idea in my mind that it would become what it has become. I don't think any of us really thought that. I don't know. It was something very different, very unique. And I was just really excited that I was asked to be a part of it, and then to actually have it develop into such that I was able to create my own little career out of it, and to be able to be connected with them for the past 25 years has been just a blessing. It's almost like somebody handed me the silver spoon or something. So it's been a really great ride for me, and the men of Queensryche are all, good friends of mine, and I'm just really excited for them right now too,
And then, so you obviously toured with them for the Operation Mindcrime sessions in the early 90s. Did you feel like you really became part of a band at that point? Like you really got to know the guys then? Or were you still sort of relegated to the side? at that point?
I think at that point, when I first started, I think I still relegated to the side. I mean, I was only doing one song. It was awesome to be able to do that one song, because nobody had really seen me on stage with them before. Because I don't think that when they went out and supported the album on their tour for Operation Mindcrime that they did the song. I don't think they did Sister Mary. And then here I show up on the Empire tour, and it's just a big surprise, It was an incredible situation. That was the first time I've been in front of so many people and performing in such a great magnitude, just gorgeous sound and lights. And we also did the Operation Live Crime video. We shot that at a couple of different shows that we did. It was pretty special, that's for sure. But I wasn't really the third member, so to speak. I didn't really have a lot of time with them up until doing more shows with them.
Yeah.
After that.
And then obviously in 2006, you reprised your role as Sister Mary again on Mindcrime 2. Now the court documents say that there was a lot of band conflict during the making of that record. Did there appear to be any tensions during the sessions when you took part in that album?
I didn't have any clue about that. The men of Queensryche on both camps have always been very professional, and they've always kept their business as business. That's why I love working with them so much, is because they have a good time. They're very professional. They're very great with their fans, and what's meant to be behind closed doors is that way. So I never saw any dissension. I never heard anything about any of that. When I was recording my parts, I was mostly with Jeff and Jason Slater. I think those were the only two guys that were there. I think Ed came down to do his bass parts, I think. But it was mostly me just getting down there to work. And I had really no idea. And like I said, that I think that that's a good thing, because you tend, what's more personable and business stuff isn't really for the ears of anybody who's not a part of what's going on within the circle, I think that's best to keep it that way, really.
And what about touring? So obviously the first time you were sort of relegated to the side, Mindcrime 2, you played a much bigger part in the shows. Did you really feel you got to connect with the band a lot more during the 2006 tour?
Oh, yeah. I was doing actually a lot more shows with them. They kind of gave me rebirth again. I think it was in 2001. I can't really remember. But they asked me to come and be a part of their Evolution live. I think it's Live Evolution or something. That's where they recorded a lot of different suites. And that's when they brought my part back up on stage with Jeff. So I think that's kind of when everything snowballed. And then they had me come to do a few shows, tours, little tours here and there. 2002, I think I remember 2003 and 4, I would do a lot of stuff with them over in Europe and bring my part out. And then I'd start to do some backup vocals and things of that sort. And I think it was when I was on tour with them in 2004 or 5 or something when they told me that I was going to have this part in Operation Mindcrime 2. And I remember saying to Jeff that, well, I'm dead. My character is dead. How does that work? It's like, and I had much more of a part on it, and obviously I'm very grateful for that. But it was kind of funny. I guess he told me that I was going to be the ghost, and I was going to always be in his mind, And so that's how it ended up there. And I played a lot of different roles in that whole thing. If people have seen the video, I play a hooker in one scene, and a dead person in another one, and a ghost in another one. So it kind of was interesting. I liked doing that tour because it was part of the acting thing. It was like watching a rock opera almost,
Yeah, I saw that tour when I hit Detroit, and I mean, that's still one of my all-time favorite shows I've ever seen. Like, it was just so cool to have all the actors, and then you got the music and, the stage set and everything. It was just really, really cool.
Yeah, I don't know anybody that didn't like it. Maybe some people, it's not their cup of tea because it's not, rock and roll and headbanging, but you could still headbang. And it was an interesting way to present the second part of it and put it all together. And I think it was really well put together. You have to understand that whole production was just, I tip my hat off to their crew because they worked their butts off, and getting every show, because we'd have different size stages, so we'd have to reduce the set. We'd have these props that we'd have to keep in order. I mean, it was just an amazing feat. And I'd look at these guys and go, oh my God, you guys, you have such, work cut out for you. And they really did a great job on that. And it's amazing what they do. They're the first ones that get up in the morning and the last ones to go to bed at night, Crazy.
Last year, the band went through a major lineup change and restructuring and all of that. Yeah. What are your thoughts on this entire situation? Did you see it coming?
No, because I haven't, I wasn't around them. My last show with them was like around 2008 when I did Europe with them, and I think we did one more show here in Seattle at the White River Amphitheater, and that was my last actual show with the lineup that it was then. I had no idea. Like I said, they're always very professional and quiet and keep to themselves when it comes to business stuff. And I look up to that because I think that's a smart thing to do. I didn't see it coming. It was a shock. It was sad, that it did happen, because here you're used to a certain lineup and Jeff as the singer, and then all of a sudden, bammo, it was just surprising. I felt more empathy towards the fans because I could see just this polarization happening between, two different camps, and I completely understand why that would happen. None of us know. I mean, we can read court documents and we can assume this, or we can start to piece things together in whatever way we want, but we have nothing to do with it. It has to be between them. And when you're a fan and you invested time and money to go see them, and you're really, you really are familiar with that particular lineup, then it's really tough. So that part really hurt to see that happening. But, I've always said this, and I always will. Change isn't very much fun. I mean, how many times have we been running along and thinking life is great, and all of a sudden, blammo, something happens, and it's like, oh God, how am I going to get through this, or what are we going to do? And I really truly believe that change brings opportunity, and it's obvious that opportunities are making its way for new beginnings in both camps. And it's not finalized yet. And again, it's sad for the fans and stuff, but I think things are going to settle down. And in my case, it's kind of difficult, because in my case, I'm damned if I do and I'm damned if I don't.
Yeah.
So I just try to remember that it's not my battle. And, I have developed friendships on both sides. But in this situation, I am lucky because I have my own solo CD that I can talk about and concentrate on, and allow that whole thing to work itself out the way that it needs to,
And then, so obviously, so far you've done work with Todd's version of the band. What song, by the way, did you sing on the new record? Because I heard that you did, but I don't know what tune.
I've been trying to keep that quiet. It's it's the song called "A World Without," and
nice.
It's very subtle.
Yeah, because I've listened to the whole record a couple times, and I'm going, I can't pick her out anywhere. I don't know where you're in there.
It's very subtle. They had me doing a lot of whispering. I mean, there's a lot of layers in that song, which is really beautiful. And I'm doing some harmony parts, and I'm doing some little talking parts in there, but it's ever so subtle that it's funny that people say, I know that's you. And I just start laughing. So anyway, yeah, it's a neat song. I really like it.
Have you been contacted by Jeff to do anything with his version of the band?
Well,
because
go ahead.
What's that?
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, because to me it seems weird that he would tour for the 25th anniversary and not have you involved. Like, were you contacted to be in, or did they just not even bother to call at all?
Oh yes, I was contacted. Yeah, he actually called me in August of last year and asked me to be a part of this. I think it was at the very beginning of August, and asked me if I'd join him. And that was a really difficult decision for me, because, Jeff and I have been kind of synonymous of each other, when we do that song. So it was tough for me, but I knew that I had this new CD coming out. It was really important to me to make sure that I gave it the wings it needed, because I really feel strongly that this album is a good album, and I didn't want to give Jeff a commitment and then have to pull out of it, for whatever reason. And I'm glad that I did, because as it stands now, the way that it was released on May 14th. It's after Jeff's operation, or after Jeff's Queensryche and solo stuff, and in between him and then Queensryche. It wasn't planned that way. It just happened to be that way. So it's kind of funny that I'm smack in the middle of both of the Queensryche albums and everything. It's funny.
Yeah.
But that's the whole reason why I didn't. It's a big reason why I didn't choose to go with him. And I'm glad, because I've just been so busy, and I've got a band that I'm rehearsing right now. We're going to start doing some shows here in July. Everything sounds so good, and I want to stand on the stage and kind of show everybody, here I am,
Mm-hmm.
This is what I can do on my own,
So you maintain, you're sort of you're friendly with both camps.
Well, yeah, I haven't really talked to the Tate camp. They've been, busy with their Queensryche tour that they're putting on. I guess I'd say I'm I'm closer to the boys. I guess the Todd camp. I guess I don't know how I don't know how you say that, because Todd is the new guy in town, but the original members are obviously Scott and Whip and Ed Bass. So anyway, yeah, I talked to them a little bit more. In fact, I'm going to be going down to see them on their CD release party here coming up next week. So that's going to be fun.
Both camps seem to be sort of in a very happy place now that they're split up.
Yeah, doesn't it seem that way? I mean, Jeff is doing what he wants to do, and, he wants to stretch out, and he might have felt like he wasn't able to. I think he was doing that, but I just really feel, like I said earlier, change is weird, because there's times when we don't want that to happen, or we're not expecting that to happen. And sometimes that has to happen. In order for you to grow a little bit more, you gotta have something kind of fall apart.
Yeah.
So I want to see this, and I do see this at the moment as a really good situation, even though I'm sure it's been very stressful on both sides of the camp, I'm sure it has. When is change never stressful,
Yeah.
But if you just allow it to be and just keep going, I think it's going to be a good situation for everyone concerned, Mm-hmm. And I truly believe that. That's happened in my life. Situations have happened, and I've come out a better person for it, that's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I'll tell you what, and speaking of change, why don't we play a couple Queensryche songs right now, and then we'll come back and talk about other things you've done outside of Queensryche, including your brand new solo album, Resurrect Me.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So I figure what we'll do is we'll play a few more songs from Queensryche that you've sung on over the years, including from Operation Mindcrime 2, as well as some live stuff.
Okay, that's awesome.
Okay, cool. All right, let's do it up right here. From Mindcrime at the Moor, this is Spreading the Disease, featuring Pamela Moore on lead vocals for part of the song. 99.1 CGM FM. There's a lot of tracks from Queensryche right there off of Operation Mindcrime 2. That was All the Promises and International Confrontation, If I Could Change It All. And before that, from Mindcrime at the Moor, we had Spreading the Disease. And all of those tracks feature singer Pamela Moore on vocals. She's been with us for the first hour of the show, and she'll be sticking around right to the end. And we've been talking a lot about Queensryche and her early career, and now it's finally time to branch out and talk about a lot of the other bands and projects she's been involved with over the years. So Pamela, one of the first bands I see that you were in after you did Operation Mindcrime and toured with Queensryche was a band called Radar.
Right.
What can you tell me about this band and how it came together? It says that you moved to New York City for a couple of years to join this band.
What was funny is that they went to seek me out, so to speak. They knew that I was the voice of Sister Mary. I had just finished my first tour with Queensryche on the Empire tour, and they contacted me. They sent me some songs. They said, how would you feel about maybe writing with us? So they sent me some songs, and I did some writing with them and went and met them a couple times in New York after the tour. And it was more of the rock side of things, and I thought this would be cool to do, after my stint with Queensryche, which I thought that was pretty much going to be it. I thought, why don't I just, try writing with these guys? And it worked out really well, and I lived over there for about a year and a half maybe. And I'm from Seattle, Washington, and whenever I make a move, it always seems like I always end up coming back home, because my family's here and everything too.
Yeah.
But we did an album together, and I had to move back home to tend to some business. And then what was cool is we ended up releasing a CD. I think it was in Europe, maybe Germany or something, on that finally, which was cool to see that happen. And then since then, I've been doing a lot of guest appearances with different bands. I worked with Halcyon Way, which is a band out of Atlanta.
Oh, you did some work with them? Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah. I can't remember the name of the album. I'm so bad with that stuff. I should have to stop that. But anyway, I worked with them. With Radar, obviously.
And with Radar, just to follow up on that really quick, so you did that in the early 90s, and then was the record shelved? Because as far as I know, it came out around the year 2000 or so.
Yeah, Well, we were shopping the album, but didn't get too much interest in what was going on, and I had to get back home, and so that kind of put like a damper on things. And then we eventually hooked up with, I think it was Keevil Records, and he wanted to go ahead and try to do a release with it. So that's what happened, is that it finally came out, which was really cool for all of us. We're like, wow, this is great. So the stuff that we had done in the early 90s finally came out in 2000.
Okay. Yeah, because I'd always wondered about that. I'm like, that seems like because you listen to how the album sounds, and you go, that sounds very, late 80s, early 90s. How the hell did they do that in 2000? Right. And so that explains it.
Exactly. Yep, that's it.
And then, so you've also done a number of projects with Ralph Scheepers of Primal Fear, including touring with them. How did you meet, and how did you sort of join them in that whole thing?
Well, what was funny is, remember MySpace? Mm-hmm. Do you remember that?
Sadly, yes.
I know. I had stumbled across his page, or I think he maybe messaged me and had a really, really kind compliment to me, saying that he really respects my work. And so we had a MySpace friendship, and we were just talking about certain things. And then what was really funny, I think that was in 2007. And then in 2008, just by chance, Queensryche was playing at the Czech Republic, and his band, Primal Fear, was playing at the same festival, which was awesome. So I got to meet him in person. And, we were always talking shop and doing different things, and we stayed in contact. And I was going to make an appearance at the Prague Power Festival the next year, and they so happened were going to be there, and so I went and did about a weekend of shows with them. Yeah,
I saw you at with Mindcrime, and that was awesome. I was stunned when you walked out on stage.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. But anyway, I did that little stint, and then it worked out so well that they were planning on making an America trip in 2010. So I did like a month and a half with them here in the States. And while I was doing that, I've been writing with my album. It took like 4 years to finish the album, that Resurrect Me, but I was working on the album, and I had asked Ralph if he'd be interested in singing on it, and of course he said yes. And so, the rest is history. I sent him files, and he sent them back to me, and they sound brilliant. He's such a powerful performer.
Yeah, for sure.
Live, but his voice range is incredible, and it was the first kind of other male besides Jeff that I sang with, and it was really a pleasant experience. It really was, and hopefully many more to come. He's a delightful person.
And then you also worked on Solna with him as well in 2009. How did that whole project sort of come together?
The gentleman who was producing that album, apparently he lost his lead singer, the person that was writing the material, and I had a relationship with him, and he asked me if I'd be interested in singing a couple songs, which I did, but then it ended up he asked if I could do all of the songs. And I was like, wow, because I hadn't written any of the material. They weren't really in a good range for me, And so I said, well, I'll try it out and see. And I did my best. I think it sounded pretty good considering how it went about. And there was this ballad that was on the album. And I had just did this show with Ralph, so I suggested Ralph Scheepers, and Ralph was up for it. So we never sang the song together in the same room. Again, this file sharing makes it so that we are able to do something where someone's in, Germany and I'm in Seattle. But it worked out really well, and that whole thing pretty much spurred the idea of having him sing with me on my new record. So
now, do you have a studio at home to record vocals, or do you have to go out to a studio around Seattle to do that?
No, I have many friends that I that I take advantage of. No, I wish, I wish I had the interest to know how to record, because it would help so much for me, but I just want to sing, and I don't want to worry about pressing buttons and knowing if levels are right, and I know I have to break down and maybe learn that, but it's so much easier when I have someone else doing it, especially when they're really quick. So I have a lot of friends that I utilize over here, and luckily they're still my friends, because that's how I've been. That's how I put the whole album together. I have like 2 friends in particular that have their own studios that I work with, and another person that I write with as well that knows how to do all that stuff really fast. So that's how I go. That's how I do things.
All right, so Pamela, right now we've got to go to another break, but since we've sort of focused a lot on Queensryche, I want to play a lot of the other bands that you've been involved with over the years. How about we start by playing a song from Radar?
Oh, cool.
And then what about some of the other projects you've been involved in that we have mentioned so far?
There's another song called Here I Am that I wrote with an Italian band. It's a single that came out in 2009, I think.
Oh, awesome. Love that song. Yeah, that's with Chakra, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And what about a song from Solna?
Let's see, what would work? Yeah. How about Blinded by the Rain? How does that go? Hold on. Blinded by... God, I haven't listened to any of these songs. Yeah, that could be a good one. God, I had such a difficult time singing some of those songs because they weren't in the perfect range for me. I mean, they came off well, but I was just like, oh God, if they could have been a little bit higher or lower. They just all came right within my mixed voice, and I was just like, how do I make this work?
Yeah.
So
that's probably my favorite song from the album. So yeah, we'll do that one.
Thanks.
How about a song or two from your 2006 album, Stories from a Blue Room? We haven't really talked about that one.
That one, the favorite on that one was Dive Into Me. And a lot of people really liked Satisfied because my cousin Terry was singing on it.
Okay, cool.
What was the other one? Because you have a heavy metal thing. You should hear Randy Piper on Take Me Down. I told him I'm going to re-record that on the next album and have him play on it because he just, he annihilates that song. There's a song called Take Me Down on Stories from a Blue Room, and it's so much more aggressive and just, it's awesome. It really sounds great. So Dive Into Me for sure, and then probably Satisfied, I would think.
Yeah, I think that was my favorite one too, but I haven't heard it in a few years, so
that's awesome.
I'm looking forward to hearing it again in a couple minutes. Okay, and lastly, let's tease everyone with a song or two from the new album, and then we can talk about it.
So let me tell you this. I always would rather have people pick the one that they'd really like to do. I've been asking a lot of the fans what songs they really like. And most of them, they're always saying different ones, but most of them will mention Paranoia, Sky is Falling. Resurrect Me seems to be the generic favorite, I guess.
Okay.
It's got a slower opening, and then it crushes you at the end. So that one's a really good one. I really like Awakening, but that's kind of a sleeper because you hear it and it's all relaxed, and then all of a sudden it goes crazy, and that shows off my range at the end of the song. So I would imagine that, say, Paranoia
Yep.
and Resurrect Me, but it all depends on what fits, for your platform, I would think.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, those two are fine. Plus, I want to make sure we've got time to come back and talk about the new album.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so let's get started right here. This is Radar, recorded in the early 90s with the song Shot Down. 99.1 CGM FM, a lot of music on that last set featuring singer Pamela Moore. That was Resurrect Me, the title track from her new album, and also from her new record, we had the lead-off single, Paranoia. Before that, from her 2006 solo album, Stories from a Blue Room, we had Satisfied and Dive Into Me. Solna before that, a project featuring singer Ralph Scheepers, also on vocals, that song Blinded by the Rain. Chakra before that, a band out of Italy with their single Here I Am. And Radar kicking everything off, Pam's band from the early 90s, that was Shot Down. And right now, it's finally time to talk about Pam's new record called Resurrect Me. It was released in the middle of May. And Pam, to me, this album sort of sounds like a natural progression from Stories from a Blue Room.
Right.
What are your thoughts on that, and what can you tell me about the recording of this record?
I'm glad you said that. I was hoping that would be a progression from the other album. The Stories from a Blue Room is very electronic, hard rock, atmospheric, pretty mellow album, and I'm proud of it. I think sonically it sounds beautiful. I worked with Neil Kernan on that album.
Really?
He's an amazing engineer.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, Kernan's fantastic. That's cool. I didn't know he did that.
Yeah, he's amazing. And sonically, that thing's in perfection, The newer record, the idea was to have him work with me on the new record as well, but we lost our investor early on. And so Michael Posh, who's the major collaborator of the album, he was my guitar player when I was living in Chicago for a few years, and he wrote this really wonderful intro piece to one of the shows that I had. And I knew I wanted to find myself. This is the album I've always wanted to do, and I wanted to find myself a guitar player that had that harder edge to it. And I think Michael was the secret ingredient, obviously. And I asked him if he'd be interested in writing with me. He wasn't the only person that I asked, but I have to tell you that every time he would send me a file of riffs or actual pieces, I was quite inspired. And so we just kept writing back and forth. I was living in Chicago, so it made it a little bit easier. When I moved to Seattle, we were just having kind of a heart-to-heart going, should we keep doing this? I said, yeah, let's do it. I mean, why not? And so that's the outcome. I was going to be doing some stuff with Jeff Loomis. Now, Jeff does a solo on the new record.
Oh, which song is he on?
Of course. He plays on Awakening.
Oh, cool.
Real explosive solo. Yeah, he plays on that. And then, of course, Ralph Scheepers is singing with me on Sky is Falling. And I had a song that I was going to be writing with Jeff, but our time schedules are always so different. He's always out of town when I'm in town, and then when he's in town, I'm gone. So it just didn't work out that way, but it worked out the way it was supposed to, and Michael just did a great job with what he did. And there's only one other person that I wrote with that wasn't Michael, and that's on the ballad that I have called Breaking Down, and I wrote that with a dear friend of mine, Brooke Lazat, and he's an amazing piano player, and he does a lot of orchestration work, keyboard work on movie soundtracks and TV shows, and he's worked with Jennifer Hudson and Leona Lewis, and so he's a powerhouse in himself, and he and I have been working on it on a different kind of genre of music writing, and this song came up, and it wasn't intended to be on the album, but I just thought it'd be a perfect song to clean the palette, so to speak, of this total face-melting annihilation that you get from the album. And so That's the one song that wasn't a contribution from Michael Posh, even though Michael did play a gorgeous guitar pieces on that song.
You kind of briefly touched on it, so you are going to do some touring for this album?
Yes, definitely. At this point, I'm hoping that I can get on some mini tours somewhere. I'd love to be able to start doing the festivals, but those festivals get booked a year in advance.
Yeah.
So right now, I've been rehearsing with the band, putting them together. I have a show in mid-July, and Michael will be flying over just to fit himself in. Michael wrote most of the music, so I have no problem that he's going to understand what's going on.
Yeah.
But we had to get the band up to speed to get familiar with the music, and I have to tell you, Brennan, it sounds awesome. The songs live, translated live, are just exciting. They just sound great, and that's really pleasing to me. So I'm excited for everybody to hear it. It's pretty neat.
Who's in your band nowadays besides Michael?
Michael Posh. Of course, Brooke will make an appearance when he can. But I have a bunch of local friends of mine, and they're amazing musicians. Craig Church is the second guitar player. I think he's with a band out here called Screaming Angels or Scream of Angels. God, I hope I don't say that wrong. I'm sorry. Right. I don't even want to say. But let's see. I have a guy named Bobby Furkovich who's playing bass, and Chris G, and they have worked together in some other bands before. And funny, my understudy that takes over when Michael can't be there is Randy Piper from Wasp.
Really?
And Randy's my neighbor. And he's an awesome guy, and he's just so much fun to be on stage with. We did a show last year for a benefit, and he was a part of it. And he's putting his own band together, which he's got pretty much assembled now, and he's rehearsing. But he's playing guitar. He's the other guitar player that's been helping, and he's going to be a part of this show as well. And hopefully we'll be able to do some shows together, either co-billing or whatever.
Oh.
He's a great guy.
That's very cool. Yeah, I had no idea you were collaborating with him.
Yeah, well, he's actually helping me a lot because we need to have that other guitar player in there while we're rehearsing, and since Michael's in Chicago, and he's got the time, he's able to help me in it, and he's a really wonderful guy, just very creative. Wait till you see the guitar he built. Oh my God.
He builds guitars?
I can't tell you about it, but it's awesome. Yeah, he built this one guitar, and he designed it, and it's awesome. I can't say anything about it, though. It's awesome. So I know that's mean, but it's
I'm a guitar player, so I'm salivating right now just thinking about it. I want to see it.
I know. You should check out his Facebook, and maybe, I don't know if he'd have it up. He might have it up, who knows, but it's really a beauty. It's awesome. It's very unique and that's what Randy Piper is very unique.
I'll have to see if I can track that down. What sort of new music are you listening to nowadays? Like, what's influencing you now as an artist?
I haven't had any time to even listen to anybody. I really love Stone Sour. I really love Corey's voice a lot. I really love male singers a lot. Not that I'm, against female singers, because obviously I love Ann Wilson too. But new music, it's tough for me because I don't listen to the radio, and some of the stuff that I do listen to are things. I'm a vocal coach, and so some of my students will have me listen to anywhere from country western to old classics, old classic jazz to classic rock. So I tend to, I'm open to all kinds of music, so I don't know if I'm stuck in any one certain genre, I love listening, and they're not new, but I love listening to Perfect Circle, and my cousin has a new album that'll be out in September, and that's pretty cool too.
Who, Terry?
Yeah, she's got one.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you mentioned earlier.
She's going to be, she's got some really great songs too. Pretty cool.
It's
along the same vein, but...
Oh, so it's kind of like Berlin?
Yeah, it's Berlin, obviously, but it's got a heavier approach to it too in some situations, and I'm really excited about that for her. I think it's going to be a really great record for her.
Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah.
So obviously you've got a new album out, and possibly an impending tour, what else does the future hold for yourself musically?
Musically?
Yeah, like do you think in another couple of years we might hear another album like Resurrect Me, or any collaborations maybe with Queensryche on the horizon, or do you have sort of any idea at this point, or are you just kind of taking it day by day?
Well, right now it's more, letting the album just freshly was released. It's only been out for about a month or so now, and now we've got some ideas for some new videos to put up to help promote the album. It's all about promoting the record and getting the band out there in support of the album. We do have intentions of putting out another album, and I do have about 3 or 4 more songs that Michael and I haven't really approached yet. So that's a big thing, is moving that forward, so it won't take another 4 more years to write another record. So that's in line. Music video, a couple of music videos, the new album, doing some live shows. And who knows what will happen, with the Queensryche guys. They've just been really busy. I have been working with the focus of the boys, and so who knows what's in store with that. It would be great to be able to do some shows, collaborate with them in that regard, and it would be awesome to be able to work with a bunch of my friends as well. It's always really nice to have some wonderful, talented friends that you can include on your projects as well. It's pretty fun.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see what happens with that. But it's just moving forward and performing live, which I love to do, getting out there again, because I haven't been out on any live shows since 2010 with Primal Fear. So hopefully that there'll be more of those, which would be a lot of fun, because this album it pushes a lot of air. I'm telling you, it's pretty exciting. It's awesome. I just love it. I love doing heavy music. I love Tool and all those kind of bands that have a real heavy angst to them. It's just awesome. I think it's cool.
All right. Well, Pam, we are just about out of time. We've got time for one more song. Do you want to pick a final song to play on the new record that we haven't touched yet?
The Sky is Falling.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, that was the first song I ever heard, and I think so far it's my favorite.
That's awesome.
Well, Pam, I want to thank you so much for taking the time out to do the interview. As I'm sure you're aware, I'm a huge Queensryche fan. I've been a long-time fan of the work you did as Sister Mary, and I really enjoyed your work with Solna and your latest solo record, which is just fantastic as well, and I urge everybody listening to go out and pick it up.
Oh, thanks.
Oh, you're welcome.
And I got to thank Scott for referring me. That's funny that he would do that. I'm gonna have to tell him thank you. But Brandon, I really do appreciate it. I mean, obviously for an artist that has something that's out and about, I'm really thankful to people like you that help us push it out there and support us the way that you do, because without you it'd be really tough to get the word out, and I really appreciate that.
Oh, no problem. My pleasure.
All right.
And if you do another record, I would love to have you back on the show so we can talk more about it and play some tracks from it.
Yes, definitely. That I would too. You're a wonderful person to talk to. You have great questions. You're very engaging. So keep up the good work, and I hope to talk to you soon.
Great. All right, Pam. Thanks again. Much appreciated.
Take care. You too. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye. All right, that was Pamela Moore right there, singer of Queensryche, Solna, and many other bands. This is from her latest record, Resurrect Me. This is The Sky is Falling. So crank this one up, and I will see ya next week.